Inside like a silverfish escaping an angry homeowner's shoe, and no, you don't want to know what happened. But for clarity, I threw up. Non-stop. My insides came out. I don't even know what it was since I hadn't even had lunch. Breakfast? I don't remember what I'd had that morning. It was like this tormenting, retching feeling that I feared would never end. Something I hadn't experienced since I was like 5. And that feeling one should have when it's over, that feeling that it's over and you're better now, I didn't have it. I collapsed on the floor, waiting, just in case, knowing I couldn't go back to my seat, that sandwiched-in seat, in between the girl with the prayer book and the bad-smelling food, and the man with the laptop who'd already left America, and the elderly religious men who hated me for taking my sweatshirt off. I wasn't putting that shirt back on, even if I loved it. Poor shirt was tied around my waist. When I started to get claustrophobic, I opened the door. A line of people, waiting to pee, I think, stretched along outside, like a mile, angry people, looking at me like, what the hell? I walked to my seat and kept going. The flight attendant, she seemed so, I don't know, easy to talk to. Hi, I almost asked. She spoke English, of course. I noticed all Israelis were smart. Perhaps that's a biased comment, but they spoke better English than I did. I looked at her, this desperate feeling of wanting to go to a hospital, or to jump out of the plane, to breathe air, fresh air, like the kind you could breathe on the top of Masada. That was good air. Any air would have done, but that plane. I just threw up. I told her, that poor woman. She just looked at me, total calm. Is there any way I can get off this plane? Dumbest question I ever asked. Sit in the back, she told me. I felt better just knowing I had tried. Maybe I thought there was something I didn't know, like a plane infirmary. There's an idea. They should look into that. An area on planes for the sick to go, to lie down and be removed, from passengers with laptops and prayer books and bad-smelling super kosher food. So I went to the back and sat on the floor and tried to breathe. My head in my arms, I just sat there, closing my eyes, trying to pretend we would land any second, though I knew there were 10 hours left. That's when I heard, hello, in this thick Israeli accent, a person speaking to me. The last thing I wanted. I looked up. This guy, maybe he was 20, 21, or younger for all I know, sitting next to me. His hair was dark and curly, his eyes the same. Well, not curly, but dark. His smile was huge, kind of like he had a plan. I looked up at him, not even trying to hide the pain. Hi, I said. What are you doing? He wanted to know. I'm sick, I told him. Sick? He said it like it was a joke. You know that feeling you get when you're just like, why? When you're like, please, go away, not now. I felt that way. Typically, I'd be friendly. Typically, I would chat. Typically, I would have been thrilled. Finally, a soldier with the IDF, talking to me. But in this case, I wasn't. Hey, I told him, I'm really not feeling well. I really, really want to be alone. No, you don't, he said. No, really, I do. But he wouldn't go away. Where are you from? New York. You were visiting. Birthright. You like it? Really, I don't want to talk to anyone now. I was just really sick, okay? That's okay. No, really, it's not okay. No, that's okay. He sat down next to me. No, it's not okay. He continued despite my protest. I'm visiting New York. I wished I was better, so I could offer to show him around, so I could talk to him, get to know him, have a new friend, but I couldn't. Please, I said, I don't want to talk. He smiled still. Determined? I don't know. I really can't talk. Okay, he said. I'll find you later. He walked away and never found me, perhaps because I spent the next 2 hours in the bathroom. Had I not been sick, I would have wanted to stay on that plane all day.
Jake Marmer is our next reader. Jake is a performance poet, PhD student in comparative literature at Kinney Grad Center in New York, and poetry columnist for The Forward. His work has appeared in Mima Makim, Blue Jew Yorker, Zeke, Jewish Currents, and other publications. He's performed extensively in New York and Jerusalem with various hip jazz personalities. Jake went on Birthright with Esha Torah and stayed a while afterward, and also spent a year in Jerusalem as a Dorot Fellow. Please welcome Jake Marmer.
Hi everyone. Massive thanks to Wayne for putting this together. It's really a unique, of course, a unique kind of an anthology. It's cool that it exists. I'm going to read 2 poems based on my experience in Israel. They're not in the anthology, but you can read the poem that's in the anthology if you like it. So this one is called Tel Aviv Vignette. Tel Aviv Shore Cafe. Chairs lined up across the evening beach like rows in a synagogue, except red and purple. Two bronze teenage gods, male and female, fix up the lights and dim them. Menus are stacked. The gates, there are no gates. Tonight, may the sea worshippers be as numerous as the grains of sand. So this is called Blue Monk in Jerusalem, as in Thelonious Monk. The window broke so many times, and today's fill of frost paint burns the big lips off the transparent gods of notation, kissing the outside transparent gods of notation, gods of the off. The window broke so many times, blue frost creasing lips. Hermeneutic owl, spectacles are watching Batsheva footsteps drying up on the royal floor. Hey, what's the deal with this obsession over a few footsteps on a cracked royal floor, cracked, as per cracking, of the proverbial jugs of Isaac Luria under a thick blanket, Jerusalem night, with Monk on the headphones, winter dreams sifting through the day's fill of Jerusalem. In Monk's gloves, my fingers stretch out to every piano of Jerusalem, ribcage piano and piano. My fingers grow huge and apocalyptic, like Monk's, like Og Melech HaBashan's fistful runs up and down Noah's windows, scraping self-righteous windows, scratching "Let me in" against the flood rain staccato grief riff. Let me in against the window broke. How many? Let me scraping the frost paint, painting the dream frost paint on those hermeneutic owl glasses in this slowly sinking world. Thank you. Just want to do a quick plug. I'm doing a show tomorrow night, blizzard or no blizzard, at the Cell Theater in Chelsea on 23rd Street. I'm going to perform a set of Talmudic poems that I started while spending a year in Israel, and I'm going to perform them with a jazz trio. So it's sort of like Talmud-inspired poems about anything, all sorts of things, contemporary Jewish experience, and musicians will act as spontaneous interpreters of the text. So
what's the name of the theater?
It's called the Cell Theater. Cell, S-E-L-L.
23rd and what?
It's between 9th and 10th Avenue. You can go on jakemarmer.wordpress.com.
What street is it on?
23rd.
23rd?
Yeah, 23rd. 2-3. First, it's the 2. Yeah, in Chelsea. It's pretty close. All right. Thank you.
Our last reader for the evening is Eric Levin. Eric is a producer and director for reality and documentary programs for such networks as MTV, ABC, TLC, and A&E. It's a lot of letters. Having worked on such shows as Morgan Spurlock's 30 Days, Wife Swap, My Super Sweet 16, and Barbecue Pitmasters. As an activist and community organizer, he writes about gay politics for his own blog, knucklecrack.com, and also focuses on producing and directing photo and video campaigns around HIV prevention, education, and safer sex. He went on a birthright trip with Taglit Israel Experience in 2007 and currently lives just down the street in the East Village. Please welcome Eric Levin.
Hello. This is called Home. This is an edited version of what exists in the anthology. Here goes. The screaming protesters carried signs at the entrance to the San Diego Zoo. Danger. 4,000 gay men will be in the park today, and HIV/AIDS is not a family value. It was San Diego's 2003 Gay Pride weekend, and after the Pride Parade on Sunday, the zoo opened its doors to an enormously popular annual gay dance event called the Zoo Party. I was in town visiting friends, and I went with them. Those protester signs were meant for us, me, my friends, and all the other attendees. They hated gay people, and they wanted us to know. One sign in particular caught my eye. It said, "When the party's over tonight, come home." Signed, God. I remember the sign, I remember the screaming protester, and I remember the contempt in his eyes as he shook the sign in my direction and yelled, "Just come home tonight, he'll always be waiting for you." I'd never really taken the time to understand my personal relationship with God. I just accepted the facts. I was Jewish. Growing up with somewhat hippie-ish Reformed parents in the northern New Jersey suburbs, Judaism was more of a cultural identity than it was a religion. Sure, my family went to temple on the high holy days. I knew about Moses, fasting, Rosh Hashanah, and some of the more popular Torah stories. But Judaism for me was more about having Jewish friends, going to summer camp, and having a menorah instead of a Christmas tree. I enjoyed being Jewish, but that's mostly because I grew up in a heavily Jewish area. All my friends were Jewish, so I never really questioned whether or not I was anything but the norm. At 14, I started realizing that I might be gay, or at least different from other boys my age. Men started creeping into my dreams, and a curiosity about men surged past my curiosity toward women. This was the late 90s, and I certainly knew what this meant, and I desperately wanted no part of it. Me? Gay? I refused to be open to the possibility. I couldn't even bring myself to utter the word gay, as if the mere mention of it would tip the scale further in the queer direction. It was then that I turned to God for the first time. Night after night, I would pray silently through my stress-related, canker-sore-laden mouth to please prevent me from being gay. Please, help me be normal. Nothing in the world, I thought, was worse than being gay. I was tormented. What did this mean? Why did this have to happen to me? I tried to change. I prayed. I asked for God's help. He was the only one who could help me, and since I kept my feelings a secret, he was the only one who knew. This was when my relationship with God officially began. If I had any sense of relief during this time, it lay in the fact that I was Jewish. While being gay is not necessarily looked at as a positive in any religion, Judaism at least seemed somewhat open to a dialogue on the topic of diversity. In comparison, Christianity seemed so black and white. You either did or you didn't. You obeyed or you went to hell. Judaism seemed more malleable and allowed for layers of interpretation. It reminded me of the tzedakah box. You can give $10 or a nickel, but either way, it's all good. It all goes to the same place. So, could I be Jewish and gay? Is that possible? The question alone eased my torment, comforted me in a way I never considered. It struck me. Wait, hold on. I'm Jewish, and I'm gay. The Jews are an oppressed people. Through that oppression, we have learned, we have changed, we have overcome. Therefore, in our ever-changing, culturally diverse, and accepting community, there might be room for me. I mean, my grandparents loved me, my temple was reformed, and for heaven's sake, we had a female cantor. I was proud to be a Jew, I had always had been, so how could there not be room for me in this community? The more comfortable I became with the idea of being gay, the more pride I felt in being Jewish. The parallels were too close. Throughout history, the Jews have been struggling for acceptance, a people who have been cast out, enslaved, and nearly exterminated. Doesn't the same somewhat hold true for the gays? I realized I was leading the life God had intended for me. He knew my struggles, but this was his choice. In a way I never expected, I found myself becoming closer to God the more I accepted myself for the gay man I was becoming. As an adult, my Judaism played an essential part in who I was becoming as a gay man. While some Jewish men may hate the fact that they're hairy, I loved it. Having the ability to grow facial hair and chest hair at such a young age helped me look and act older than I actually was. At 18, I was telling people I was 22, and I was sneaking into New York City's premier gay dance clubs without being asked for ID once. My first gay friends were older, hairy